500 or more Ghanaian supporters set for the World Cup, which begins in Brazil in less than 24 hours. Well, they're likely to be stranded in the South American continent with the current economic situation. High cost of living, excessive internal travels to undertake could cut the World Cup excitement by half. And we all know that Sports Minister Elvis Afriye Ankra announced at a press conference 2 days ago that it will cost an average of $6,000 per fund. But how realistic is that? Tonight we're going to be live in Brazil. Well, welcome to today's big story. My name is Prince Minka, and like I mentioned to you, in less than 24 hours, it's Hexa Brasilia. At least that's the resonating sound across the length and breadth of Brazil as Brazil 2014 begins. We're talking about the World Cup. Well, Brazil has had to spend a couple of weeks and months dealing with various issues regarding to the construction of their stadium. But Brazil will be where the action would be. Now, before we speak on the various issues emanating as far as Brazil 2014 are concerned, let me take you to our reporter, Efua Akwa Harrison, who's been speaking to some soccer fans in Brazil. And then when we come back, we'll let you know exactly how the Ghanaian soccer fans are going to fare in Brazil, owing to the current economic situation there.
Can you please tell us your names and where you're from?
Daniela from São Paulo.
Mauralice, São Paulo.
I'm Diego, I'm from here.
From here. Okay, so the two of you are from Sao Paulo. What are you doing in Rio?
Well, actually, I live in London, so I came here just to visit Rio de Janeiro. So we're not going to stay for the World Cup, but we came here just to see how is everything here, how is the World Cup is going to be, you know, just excited.
What significance does the Maracanã Stadium hold for you?
It's beautiful. It's just like very excited for the World Cup. Just like, wow, nice. Let's go to the Maracanã to see. Oh, nice, yeah. And FIFA is quite living here now, yeah.
And as a Brazilian, how do you feel about the World Cup being hosted right here in your home country?
To be honest, I think it's going to be very, very nice. Very nice. The Brazilian people are very excited about. If you walk around here, you're going to see a lot of flags and green and yellow, yeah? Yeah, the color is, yeah.
Do you also live in London or you live here in Rio?
Yes, we are friends from London, yeah.
So all three of you are coming
no,
from?
Actually,
she's in São Paulo.
Okay, you are in Sao Paulo. You speak English? Okay. So how do you feel about the protests that have been happening against the World Cup?
I don't think you're the best person to tell.
No, it's hard to say because we are not longer living here, but when I talk to my friends, the condition of the Brazilians is not good, and when it comes to the healthy transport, everything, like, because Brazilian people, they love football. They are so excited to have the World Cup here, but when it comes to the basic
needs.
Exactly, the basic needs, they are a bit upset. But I believe they are gonna. How can I say?
Enjoy it?
Yeah, definitely they will. Definitely they will.
Now, obviously, I know because you're Brazilian, you're biased, you're supporting Brazil, but what other countries are you looking forward to watching this World Cup?
England.
Italy.
Her husband is Italy.
Oh, okay. And you,
Ghana, come on.
Yeah. And you, Mom, país. What country are you supporting for the World Cup?
Que país que você tá torcendo?
Brasil, não, acho.
Brazil. Okay.
Or England.
All right.
Well, I guess by now you should be saying, go Black Stars. But some Brazilians, just as you heard there, are not excited about the whole millions of dollars that have had to be pumped into the construction of the stadium. And they're saying this is going at the detriment of developmental shortfalls in Brazil. Well, this prompted President Dilma Rousseff to justify Brazil's big spending on the World Cup. And she defended the protest by indicating that it goes to deepen the existing democracy in the country. Now, we're going to be speaking to Ifuakwa Harrison in a short while. When we get there, we'll get to know the current atmosphere in Brazil and how Brazilians are getting themselves ready to host the world at this year's World Cup. But first of all, let's go over to the phone lines and speak to a member of the Youth and Sports Committee in Parliament, Honorable Boniface Gambila, and let's speak a bit more about the current economic conditions in Brazil and how that's going to affect the supporters, the Black Star supporters who are going to be there rooting for our boys. Thank you very much, Honorable, for joining us on today's Big Story. Honorable, good evening. Thank you very much for joining us.
Yeah, good evening.
Now, it's more than, it's actually less than 24 hours, and then we can go into the World Cup Brazil 2014. I guess you've heard of the number of protests that's been going on in Brazil. And then you also know about the $6,000 that's going to be given to the Ghanaian soccer fans as we go into Brazil. Now, judging this and looking at the current economic conditions in Brazil, we've already heard our reporter tell us that, look, spending-wise, it's such a huge deal in Brazil. Do you think that our supporters are going to be able to cope with the situation? Is it going to be easy for them?
Yeah, I am always optimistic in situations where people are pessimistic. I believe eventually things will settle down because though people are frustrated and all that in Brazil and making comparisons and all that is due to the economic hardships. And so when people make comparisons of this kind of social activity against their stomachs, poverty and all those things, then momentarily emotions supersede sense. So, but it's the responsibility of the state. The government of Brazil will have its way to persuade and to find a way out.
Let's talk about our supporters. I'm talking about the supporters going on to root for the Black Stars. How do you think they're going to take all this? I mean, the internal politics in Brazil, coupled with how much they would have to spend in moving from one stadium to the other.
Yeah, that Ghanaians are capable of coping with things. That I can trust. My only problem is our supporters are going to Brazil to sit outside and watch television screens and come back home. That is just a total waste. We haven't really planned that one very well. We could send a few supporters, find a way for them into the stadiums, but it's expensive. At a time when we have wasted all the money in Ghana, we are in deficit, but we think the soccer will come to alleviate things, which I doubt so much. As for their ability to cope, they will, but there will be so much complaints and frustrations. You can expect that from them.
Is that to say that you foresee a situation where most of the fans are likely to be stranded?
If the government, as we believe, has enough money for them to go and sit outside and watch television screens and come back, then yes, whatever it is, which is not the best decision to make. I don't know whether the government today is interested in just sending supporters to Brazil to watch it. It would have been better watching from here.
But we're looking at 500 supporters and even more. You mentioned that that's going to be a total waste to as far as spending on this is concerned. But
yes,
is it too late? Yeah. Is it too late to perhaps cut down the numbers?
I believe the minister is already there, so who is going to recommend cutting? Nobody is here to recommend cutting because this. I believe the government service is not a government that knows how to cut. It knows how to cut and put in their private pockets.
But were you aware? Were you on the Parliamentary Select Committee on Youth and Sports?
I'm just moving to that.
Yes.
Because I'm saying so because I'm a ranking member, second deputy ranking on the committee, youth and sport. As at now that I'm talking to you, between the minister and the committee, there is nothing happening. The chairman of the committee is supposed to meet us tomorrow and brief us. Meanwhile, under 24 hours, the program is going on. The parliamentary committee that has oversight responsibility over sports, the ministry, the parliamentary committee has not been briefed properly as to even visiting to see how the players are, where they will stay, their welfare, and even to be part of the program. But musicians, artists, film artists, concert people have been taken by the Ministry of Sports as ambassadors to Brazil ahead of the committee, parliamentary committee that has oversight responsibility on sports. Can you imagine the representation of the people has been sidelined by the Minister of Sports and the government of the NDC? This is the kind of government we say incompetence and inefficiency and poor decision-making prevail. That is the problem we have in this country. A whole sports committee of parliament representing the people of Ghana has no idea what is happening as at now.
Is that to suggest that you had little input, no input at all, as far as the number of supporters that we are sending into Brazil is concerned? And obviously, the fears that you have that, look, these supporters are likely to be stranded.
As for stranding, I don't pray for that, but they'll be frustrated. And the government of the NDC, the ministers don't respect committee chairmen. And I don't know what, because they play among themselves because they are the party in power. So they play out with things. And so the ministers who, for some reason, couldn't have won an election to come to parliament and are made ministers outside that, are now sitting on a parliamentary committee chairman. No minister respects a parliamentary committee chairman.
That cannot be the status quo. I don't know how you're going to work around it. Are you likely to draw the minister's attention to this?
That is this government. That is their matter. That's their cup of tea.
But Ghanaians are concerned. What are you going to do about it?
See that. And under Nana Akufo-Addo coming, you will see that.
But what are you going to do about it? How are you going to get the minister to realize that your input is very necessary?
We have petitioned to the chairman of our committee.
Very well. Thank you very much, Honorable, for talking to us on today's Big Story.
Thank you so much, my brother.
And we've been speaking to Honorable Boniface Kambila. He is a deputy ranking member on the Parliamentary Select Committee of Youth and Sports. And basically, we've been talking about, some fears they are expressing with regards to the prospects of the supporters of the Black Stars as they go into Brazil. We're going to take a break. When we come back, we'll go live to Brazil and we'll let you know exactly how Brazilians are getting themselves ready to host the world in this year's World Cup. You're welcome back to today's Big Story live on Joy News on Multi TV. Now we're still discussing various preparations ahead of the World Cup 2014 in Brazil, and we'll also be finding out exactly what the preparations really are like for supporters of the Black Stars, who are obviously going to be representing in Brazil, and talk about spending and the current economic conditions in Brazil and how the supporters are going to cope with it. I'll be speaking to my colleague George Adu Jr. shortly on that. But before that, let's go now to Brazil and get a feel of what's been happening at the Maracanã Stadium, which obviously is going to be hosting some of the teams in this year's World Cup.
The Maracanã Stadium is the largest stadium in South America, and it has a very, very significant history. It was inaugurated in the 1950s for the 1950 World Cup, and it hosted the final match between Uruguay and Brazil, where unfortunately Brazil lost by 2-1. Well, This time around, 7 matches will be played here, including the finals, and I'm sure many Brazilians are hoping that their country will make it there to reclaim their lost glory. Unfortunately, we cannot enter to show you this beautiful edifice because we do not have the access to do so now. But I am sure you'll be watching many, many, many wonderful games from here as the World Cup progresses.
And that's in less than 24 hours. That's Ifuakwa Harrison will join her shortly, and she'll tell us the entire mood in Brazil at this particular moment. But let's talk about our supporters and how they're going to cope with the economic situation in Brazil. Joining me is George Addo Jr., sports journalist here at Joy News, Multi TV. Sure. Welcome to today's big story.
Thank you very much. Great to always talk about sports and when it matters most.
Absolutely, and it's less than 24 hours to the very first game, Brazil versus Croatia. We'll talk about that match, but the biggest issue now has to do with how the supporters of the Black Stars are going to cope with the current economic conditions in Brazil. For you, with various information you picked up, how's it going to look like for them?
Well, we need some more clarification. It's a bit disappointing that Boniface says that they have not been involved in the process. I'll try to go back to what the minister said at his press conference. The minister said that $6,000 is actually the average that's going to cost a supporter to go to Brazil. It's important to find out if that covers the internal transport, because it's very, very, very expensive in Brazil. For what we heard so far, what we're hearing is that it's very expensive in Brazil, and what we've heard so far, we're not too sure there. That's one of the things. We don't want supporters going to Brazil and getting themselves in all sorts of situations, and then they start crying and saying that we're stranded. We want to be sure that the supporters go there and enjoy and actually go and do what they're supposed to do. They're going there to cheer the Black Stars at games in the stadium. Can they make it to the stadium? The good thing about this year's World Cup is, yes, the organizers made sure that you're going to get a ticket before you are given a visa. So by our understanding, the 500 or more fans that are going to be allowed to go to Brazil will be going there with their air tickets, definitely. But will they be able to manage the cost involved? It's critical, because the Black Stars are moving from place to place, from Marseille to Natal, from Natal to Fortaleza. These are very important things that we need to understand. Not too sure if the 6,000 the minister was talking about covers all that internal.
We'll get to the 6,000 shortly, but let's go live now to the phone lines. Ifuakwa Harrison is in Brazil, and she's going to tell us exactly how the current conditions there really is like. Ifua, good evening. Thank you for joining us.
Hi, Prince.
So, how's Brazil looking like? Less than 24 hours to go into the commencement of the World Cup.
Well, Brazilians are really getting ready for the World Cup right now. We were in a neighborhood in Brasilia, that's the current national capital, last night, and it was all decorated, the colors of their national flag. There was yellow and green everywhere. They are selling jerseys everywhere on the streets. There's a bend-down boutique right at the main bus station in Brasilia. Those who have cars are supporting with the flags. So, Brazilians are really passionate about football and about the Brazilian national team winning the match in general. And so everywhere you go, it's like green and yellow. And in Brasilia, for instance, all the major buildings are lit in green and yellow. It's beautiful.
And I'm also hearing that the Brazilians have been chanting Hexa Brasilia, meaning that Brazil should win the World Cup for the 6th time. But we'll get to that shortly. Let's talk about, the kind of wallet one needs to have in order to move in and around Brazil. And we perhaps would want to speak about our supporters first. For an average Ghanaian who perhaps would have a $6,000 budget, how easy would it be moving around Brazil?
I think if you have a $6,000 budget, that would be a pretty good budget to move around Brazil. Cost of living here is high. For instance, Marcelo Silveiro, who is a translator fixer, he lives in Rio and says that the average salary for someone who works in a shop is about 800 reais. And to get a room, even in a slum, is about 500 reais, which is, compared to the dollar, it's twice is twice the dollar. So like 1 real is like, actually $1 is 2.2 reals or 2.12, depending on where you change it. But $6,000 will be enough. That means you get a bit over 12,000 reals to get around. Food, I would say, that's about 60 reals a day for food. Right now, because on average it's between anywhere from 15 to 30 for one meal. So that's food alone.
And say for moving around the stadia, how's it going to look like? Because I'm hearing that look from the distances could be, I mean, they're very wide in terms of the number of hours that you're going to spend on the road. So linking that to how much you need to spend, I bet you're going to have to spend a lot.
Yeah, Brazil is a big country, okay? We have moved from Rio to Sao Paulo to Brasilia, and we'll be going on to Natal from Salvador, where we are right now. Now, where the Ghana is going to be playing, Natal, Fortaleza, Brasilia. Natal and Fortaleza are closer to each other. By bus, it's 94 real dollars, so let's say about $40 for bus. For a journey that is about 8 hours without traffic. So that's from Natal to Fortaleza. Okay?
Right.
The fastest way to travel is by plane, which is 45 minutes, but then that will cost you about almost 400 reals. Almost 400 reals for a one-way flight from Natal to Fortaleza. So that's about $200.
Right. Well,
and then, Prince?
Yeah, I was just going to say that we're running out of time, but you're putting these figures together, and of course we all know that the Black Stars supporters obviously are going to have a budget of $6,000 US. You think that it is going to be really cool for them? They wouldn't go through any difficulties at all?
Yeah, it should be cool for them. But also it depends on where the Black Stars do get to, this time around. So if we go all the way to the end, they might need a bit more, or they could manage it. It will be tight, but they could manage it. But in my personal opinion, I feel it is enough.
What about the current protest that's been going on? Are you picking up signals that that's likely to mar the whole beauty of the World Cup?
Well, in Sao Paulo, I was picking up signals that it could be a real issue. Sao Paulo is a big city, 11 million people, and last week the train workers went on strike, which is one of the ways that fans will be able to move from their hotel to the stadium to go watch the game. But they've suspended the strike now, so that shouldn't really be an issue as of now. We haven't caught any protests. We seem to have missed all the protests. The protests that we've seen are personal protests, not against the World Cup per se, but maybe for better wages. There was one that we caught in Rio about workers trying to stop the sale of their company to another company. So various issues. Some Brazilians feel like the protest is good for Brazil because they are actually really starting to fight for what they want. Coming out of a dictatorship, Brazilians haven't done that. They haven't fought for their rights. They haven't fought for what they really want. And so this World Cup coming out and bringing out all these issues is sort of good for Brazil in that sense.
Very well. Thank you very much, Ifuakwa Harrison. And certainly we'll be touching base with you in the next coming days. And it's all fun in Brazil now, I guess. All right, so that's Ifuakwa Harrison speaking to us there, but still have George Addo Jr. here.
And I think she put some things in perspective. First of all, the $6,000 US we're talking about was the amount the minister says will cost to take a fan from here and cater for the fan throughout the stay, at least for the Black Stars in the group stages. Now, she's giving us some very interesting facts here. And so we obviously have to add the air ticket. There's the air ticket from here to Brazil, plus your stay in Brazil. So things are very much expensive in Brazil. But what she said, because you're looking at some $200, you're looking at some $400, I'm looking at food. The minister says, yes, the sports minister says they're going to provide food for breakfast and supper for the supporters. What would they do? What would they be doing in between the breakfast and supper is another thing you have to look at. So until they come out to tell us that all of these things are part of the $6,000, which I doubt is one of the things. I spoke to some of the travel and tour agencies, and they are saying that yes, it probably might be it, but we're still looking at something slightly above 6,000. We're doing all of these things just to be sure that the fans don't go there and don't get to do what they have to do. They have to be in the stands to support the stars, of course, with energy after they've eaten. And so these are crucial things. That's things that befell us in some time past in the World Cup should not happen again. 6,000, IFWA has painted a very good picture of what's happening. It's still not looking too good, except we know what's happening. And we know that the numbers might increase as well.
Very well.
Another critical point, again, in all of this is also about how the distribution is being done.
Right.
500 and over fans are going, but what criteria are they going by? How are they giving the tickets out? Die-hard supporters they've told me they have only 20 slots.
And I guess this discussion certainly will go on.
Yeah, it will go on and on.
For
a number of things that we have to clear before they start
Absolutely.
the airlifting actually on Friday. Things that need to be cleared and things that need to come out very clear. Then.
Thank you very much, George Addo Jr. George Addo Jr. certainly giving us a breakdown of exactly how the spending will look like for the Black Star supporters as they go into the World Cup in Brazil. Well, that'll be it for, of course, this session of today's big story. Coming up shortly, though, we get very interactive. That is Brasilia 2014.